not able to get on, you want to pass that information along to them? Is Julie here? We lose Julie?
Yeah, I don't see her yet.
John posted a new link on our website, so if people log back on, the new link is on there.
I don't know where Julie went. Julie wants to know when she signs back on, John. Do you have to send her another invite?
No, I'll send her one though.
I just went back to my original invite.
Correct.
Yeah, it should be the same link.
Yeah. Did you hear from Christine Sampson yet? Can she hear it?
No, but Sean got it.
You did? Okay. Great. All right, well, I know we need to vote on some things here, so I would hope Julie comes back on shortly, but we will just have to make notes of who's doing motions if not. So we were discussing the BOCEs. Are there any additional questions on any of these votes and resolutions from anyone here? No? Okay. So do I have a motion to move the votes and resolutions items to A through E to a consent agenda?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. Finance information, Mike, it looks like we have some budget transfers there, which do not actually need to be approved, correct?
Right, the first group there are all budget transfers just for informational purposes because the individual amounts are under $30,000.
Okay.
Let's see. Then you've got a resolution for the ad alternate to do the sod on soccer fields, the athletic fields in lieu of grass seed. That's item number 6. So we went from item 5. Now we're to item 6 for finance. So that's a resolution. Item 6B is a resolution for the tax anticipation note for the new year. The time is coming up quick. We're going to need to, do the TAN like we did last year to get us cash flow until tax collection starts coming around.
Right, and this is a TAN for expenses, and it's not the ban for the bond that we were talking
No,
about.
this is just our short-term cash flow needs until our tax collection season hits, which doesn't start hitting us until January. Item C are transfers numbers 181 and 182. These two are over the $30,000, and it's all part of the end of the year cleanup of certain accounts and things like that, reclassifications that needs the board to approve.
Okay.
Item D is the disposal of surplus inventory. Dan Newman and some of the custodians went down in the basement and started pulling out some ancient old light fixtures, shelving, wood tables, all the items on this list. The items are old, they're just not salvageable, they have no value to us and no use to us. So we need a board resolution to allow us to dispose of that stuff.
Okay. Right. Julie, are these items that we can do as a consent agenda, or do we need to read each one individually?
I have one question for Mike before we go there.
Yeah.
Do those items have identification codes on them, or are they just items that have been stored down there?
Just items that have been stored down there. They don't have any ID tags on them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can do it consent agenda, and then I can do also an asset disposal. And dispose of all the assets according to our financial statements.
Okay, thanks, Julie. So does anybody have any other questions about these four finance items? The ad alternate, the TAN, budget transfers, and the disposal. Anybody? Okay, then do I have a motion to move finance items A through D to a consent agenda?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carrie, Committee on Special Education.
Sure. So we just have two cases. One is a new student who moved into district, and the other case is a change of placement of one of our students.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby accepts the recommendations from the Committee on Special Education, CSE cases 1 and 2. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, new business. Time to talk about COVID.
Well, the first item there is the Health, Safety, and Facilities meeting. We had our first meeting this past Wednesday. Both Pat Brabant and Dave Conlon are on that committee. And I know it was the middle of the day and Pat probably gets busy, but we had about 16 people participate. Two doctors, several community members, few teachers, as well as some of the administrative staff. Thought the process went very well. It was mainly to kind of introduce them to the committee, go over our mission statement, and then just start an open discussion of their concerns. A lot of it was mostly about their concerns. And I was glad that the doctors were on board to talk a little bit more about, you know, the COVID-19 and the infectious rates, things like that, to try to put some things in perspective, because as you know, a lot of people tend to spin all over the place. So, you know, it was a good starting point. We've decided we're going to meet once a week virtually to formulate and support some of the other committee work that's being done, where we can kind of figure out things like, you know, the cleaning and disinfecting that has to go on within the building, you know, checklists for what work needs to be done. So again, our custodial staff, they'll have a kind of a marching order and just a game plan on what they need to do to try to keep the health and safety of the building up to par. We haven't yet addressed any of the other facilities kinds of needs like we did last year, but that's going to be something we're going to hold off until later in the fall. So that was it in a nutshell.
Barbara, do you want Mike to speak to the consultant that the district is going to hire through BOCES and EnviroScience regarding health, safety, and facilities at this time?
Let's see.
Because it's a BOCES service, it's not going to be a board agenda item.
Oh, right, for Stephanie, you mean?
Stephanie, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we've decided after talking it over among the administrators that we presented it to the board to contact a person who's been a facilities director. She has been the past president of the Suffolk County Buildings and Grounds Association, which is a subset of the New York State Buildings and Grounds Association. She's got 17 years of experience. She's got a very good reputation and track record. She comes with an awful lot of information, and she is willing to work for Spring School, basically working through EnviroScience so that we can get the BOCES aid for the services to help us formulate a little bit more of the cleaning and disinfecting plans. She's going to help participate on our Health, Safety, and Facilities Committee as well. And the idea is to try to get our custodians, you know, and help people, you know, Dan Newman and some of the other custodians, help them do a better job overall. To do an adequate job as a facilities director or lead person, it's a lot of paperwork. And I think she can lend that support and lend that assistance to help train Dan in particular. But she also has a lot of knowledge on just general cleaning techniques, supplies. She's got a good network. She's planning already to bring in some of the vendors who we would buy cleaning supplies and equipment from to do some of the training, which I think is invaluable. So I think that's about it in a nutshell for her too.
I want to take the opportunity to thank the board because, we've been doing policy and procedures since I came to Springs. We did transportation a couple of years ago. We brought somebody in for fine arts, and it's a temporary consultant that will just get us really on track and make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. She's very much into health and safety, and that's our primary goal right now is to really concentrate on the health and safety of our building, of our staff, the facilities, and I think a sense of confidence in having somebody of her expertise under Enviroscience. Remember, Enviroscience is the company that came out to do our mold remediation, does our water testing. So they are only one of two companies on Long Island that do this work, and they highly recommended Stephanie Pompey to us to do some consulting for us.
I was just going to say, I don't think it was so much, I think Mike, I don't know if he misspoke, but I think it's not so much that the custodians need to do a better job. I think, everything we're living in right now is just such uncharted territory that I think she can bring some expertise and insight that maybe all of us, including the custodial staff, can use to make the school safer for our faculty and our students.
Yeah, right. I probably did misspeak on that one, but you're 100% correct on that. Like she had explained, there are so many new procedures that go on out there, so it's just a matter of introducing them to some of these other procedures that, and again, some are going to work, some are not, maybe, but at least it gives them a few more tools in their tool belt.
Yes, I think that will be a really important part going forward with making sure that everybody's comfortable with the level of cleanliness and disinfecting that's going on in the building. So I think she will be an asset as we move ahead with with these new plans that we have to make.
I'll take the next part. Looking at our space, we're under construction. We're already in need of additional space. So when we saw some of the guidance from the Department of Health, from the CDC, and from the State Education Department, we started to explore additional space. We learned about some trailers that what we needed to do was pay for them to be moved. Mike went out to Amityville to look at these trailers. It is one unit made up of 5 trailers, and the space is about 4,700 square feet. Absolutely too much for what we need, and more of a permanent structure. Again, not something that we need. So today we met with a tent company. They're out of Long Island. Of course, we look for what would be the most expensive and what would be the least expensive. What we would really like to see is opportunities for our students to get outside more frequently. Use this as an opportunity to do that additional recess or lunch someplace else, take your mask off, have a mask break. So there are some tents that we can purchase. We had a community member with us today who is thinking about doing some sort of fundraising to help us with this. But even if we were to get a few tents to put outside so that our children could get additional opportunities to go outside, even maybe do phys ed out there or music out there, it just gets them out of the building for a period of time. So we explored both options, and we're not making any recommendation right now to purchase or rent additional space, because I think once we propose our schedule to you, next Monday. We may be okay in the building. We can't use shared spaces, so Eric will speak more to that. So we're looking better than we did when we first started this, but we wanted to at least explore all options.
I think that's definitely an interesting option, seeing as, we've been reading some articles about, kids being outside and the more air and, less incidents of COVID happening like that. So I'm glad you're thinking outside the box with these things.
And the tent, Barbara, if we purchase some of these tents that are used, they're not brand new, we feel we could use them again. So it could be used for graduation ceremony, it could be used for back to school barbecue when we're able to do that again. Field day, we're always looking for shade out there for field day. So I don't think the expense would be something we would regret. They're very affordable. They're made out of aluminum, so they don't rust. It's just the canvas part that you replace every 5 years, depending on how much use. The company we were dealing with is a BOE vendor, and they do take the tents up and down for you for a small fee, and they also come out and make sure that they are structurally sound. Anytime they're out on the stand, they check out tents all the time. So there's a small fee for that to just make sure that they're safe. Basically, you're paying for a service. So, more on that as we get the estimates tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Eric is up on COVID. He has the instructional side of the committees.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to share tonight. As you all know, that there's a number of committees that are working independently, concurrently, but all of the work that is being done will be in one comprehensive document that we will obviously share with our community. For speaking for my colleagues, you and the administrative staff, the health and safety of all of our students and staff, and ultimately our families, will be the primary priority for reopening in any phase that we decide to go into. As Deb said, I am working with the instructional committee, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our two meetings. As you know, just to give you a little bit of a timeline, SED and the CPC put out their guidance last Monday and Wednesday, so we don't have a lot of time to get this done. As you know, our plans have to be posted for review on July 31st, which is next Friday. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that we've done in the instructional committee, what our next steps are, and what our plan is moving forward. So I've had the privilege to work with a number of staff members on the instructional committee. We have representation from our K-2, our 3 through 5, our 6 through 8, our special area teachers, our E&L teachers, as well as special education teachers. We've had 2 meetings since July 15th guidance came out from the CBC, and from the time that SED put out their guidance last Wednesday. As part of the first meeting, we did 2 things. One, we reviewed the data that we received from the 2 surveys that we put out, one to our families and one to our staff. And we also started looking at the guidance document and started compiling the information and looking for things like similarities, contradictions, because there were a few of those in there as well too. And we started putting together a pretty comprehensive plan, which I shared the latest iteration with you this morning. And we will be continuing to be updated with that plan as we work on it. Our next meeting with this committee is taking place tomorrow at 11 a.m. and then we have a follow-up meeting on Thursday. Our goal here is to get you the information for you to review the final plan next Monday. That will allow you some time to ask questions, make revisions, contact the school attorney if need be, because by next Friday, our plans do have to be posted. These are uncertain times, and I think, we take great pride at spring school as to how our classrooms look, and our teachers spend enormous amounts of time really trying to create an amazing learning environment for our students, which they do. Unfortunately, for the foreseeable future, that may look a little different. We are setting up a number of various model classrooms based on the CDC guidelines and mandates, as well as the SED guidelines and mandates. So you will notice that that's going to look a little bit, our classroom will look a little bit different moving forward. That's not to say the quality of teaching won't be amazing as it always is, but again, this is something that we have to put in place. Just to give you a little perspective, we had a good number of our staff return the surveys. Approximately about 70% of them returned the surveys, with another 40% of our families returning the surveys. Of course, we would have loved to have 100% participation, but we had approximately 40% participation. Our second meeting, which took place last Thursday, is when we started to actually draft the plan. Our goal is to take the work that Mike is doing in health and facilities, work that I will be doing with the instruction committee, work that Deb is doing on transportation, and the work that Terry's doing on social and emotional learning, and combine them all into one plan. And if you look at the plan today, you'll notice that those components have already started to be compiled. Our focus tomorrow and over the next week will be to look at scheduling so we can propose a number of options to you. I know our committee has already met with their constituents and have some questions that we will be addressing as part of tomorrow's meeting. And as I said, our goal is to get you a finalized plan that you can review next Monday and that we can post the following Friday.
Thank you, Eric. Terry took the guidance advisory committee, which is a board committee, and has added the it is SEL, but added the component of trauma. And we know our students, when they return, and our staff are going to need social and emotional support. So that committee is basically made up of our guidance counselor, our psychologist, our social worker, and Tim is on there, and a teacher is on there, Tracy.
And we have our health teachers on there as well who teach SEL second step in their classes. So this committee, like Ms. Winter said, is our guidance committee who picked and have been implementing second step for the past 2 years. So our first meeting was this past Thursday. We talked about the surveys that went out to our staff as well as our parents, and also all of the documents that were sent out from BOH and SED. And we started to look over the reopening plan and how we meet our students' needs, but also our staff and parents' needs during this time. So the next focus, we meet tomorrow, and we will be focusing on what steps do we need to do to enhance second steps. I'm staying away from the word surveys, but more of getting to know where our students' social emotional baseline is, as well as our staff, and what does that look like, and how do we need to then respond. And then we will be looking at second step is having a teacher component added coming the end of August. So we'll also look at that to see if that's something that would behoove us to help support our teachers.
Thank you, Carrie. And I took transportation, and I met with Marion. Betty Ann is the bus driver in charge of the bus drivers, and Robbie Anderson has been doing a wonderful job maintaining our buses and cleaning and disinfecting the buses. We also are following the guidance from the CDC as well as the Department of Health and the State Education Department. There was a major conflict between the Department of Health and the State Education Department. We're still waiting for clarity on that. One group says that as long as students wear masks on the bus, they do not have to social distance. And then another document says you need to wear masks and social distance. The point of reference here is the difference is if you have to social distance and wear masks, you can only put 22 students on a bus that holds 66. You should know at spring school we load our buses with at least 90. Now, many of those students don't take the bus. They are in before or after school care. but we usually load them with 90. To load our buses with 22 or 44 students will be a significant burden on the spring school. We did put out a survey asking our parents that the recommendation from the Department of Health was, when possible, please drive your student to and from school. We did get back a small sample. It's not all of our parents, about 175. We have about 500 families that have responded to the survey, so it's really not a good indication. Right now it shows that 150 students need transportation. We don't know if that's 150, they just felt that they didn't have to respond, or is that just 150? We need 6 weeks lead time in order to schedule our buses, so we're going to have to make one last ditch after this plan comes out to say to our parents, if you require transportation, you must reach out to us so that we can schedule these runs. Our bus drivers, all with the exception of one, will be returning, so that's good news. We're still looking for bus drivers. We still are willing to train as long as the drivers stay with us for a year. And Robbie will be the person to disinfect the buses at the end of the day, and in between the major runs, morning and afternoon, our bus drivers will be responsible for cleaning the buses as they always have. Your buses have to be loaded from the back to the front, so that's another scheduling nightmare. And then you have to disembark the same way from the front to the back going home. So you're looking at a whole different way of routing these buses. If we have to do double runs, that's where the scheduling piece comes in, doing like an advisory period where Carrie can run maybe her SEL and check in with students, see how you're doing today, how you're feeling, are you happy today, is there something you want to talk about today? And then on the tail end, we're going to have to start car line and bus about probably a period earlier, just so that we can get everybody out from car line and do second runs on our buses and still be out of the building by 3:20. Very important to give our custodial staff a chance to clean and disinfect. Remember, they're almost doing double duty, so that's it's important that we vacate the building as soon as possible at the end of the day to allow for that to happen. These are big jobs, all of them, and I have to say that the team is constantly working. You saw some of my emails last night as I found the articles. We looked at plans from other states. Tim, thank you for sending me Virginia's plans. New York was very late in coming out with their plan. We're still anticipating some surprises from the state as our governor gets some pressure. So we will develop 3 plans, a hybrid, a in-person one, and then of course a remote one. When you look at the guidance from the Department of Health, if one person gets sick and that one person has ridden the bus, and those children on the bus belong to 7 or 8 classrooms in our building, you're shutting down school. And then the guidance is 14 days is the wait time to make sure that nobody is infected. So a lot to think about, but I have to say I am working with a tremendous team, and the community members that are on are given very freely of their time to help us and assist us, and they've been very patient with us as well. The PTA has offered to do whatever they need to do to assist us. So we're in this together, as we keep saying, and we ask for everybody's patience as we post our plan on the 31st, and I have 28 pages worth of assurances that I have to check boxes. So trust me when I say I won't be checking those boxes without being sure that I can assure that we've done everything that the state has asked us to do. And there's one question already I looked at that has to say about hospital capacity. I will have to reach out to Southampton and ask them how they intend to notify school districts in the Southampton town of when they're at capacity and what they expect us to do when they're at capacity. We have questions already for our attorneys. We're waiting for guidance from them. They're all working together with their colleagues to try to get some answers to our questions Department of Health has a special website, so we can ask questions there, as does the State Education Department. I share things with you as soon as I get them, but your update this past week has all the links in one place. John Gibbons will be loading all those links to our community page as well, so that any community member, when I reference the Department of Health document, they can go to that one place on our website and pull up the Department of Health document. So I want to be as transparent as possible and have all the guidance documents that we're receiving on our website. John will ensure that. I know we probably have questions from the community. There was a question that was sent prior to the board meeting regarding tracing. Yes, that has to be part of our plan. The school district starts the tracing by working collaboratively with the Department of Health. So where was this staff person? How many rooms were they in during the day? Everything's kept confidential. And then they tell us whether we need to close for 24 hours, 72 hours, for 2 weeks. So, but we have to initiate the tracing. We have to have sign-in sheets. We have to know who's been in what rooms at what time, just like we do right now at the SYA building and the portable and the main building. Anytime we go into those areas, we're signing in so that people know that we're in those spaces, just in case something takes place. Julie, do you have other questions? Board questions?
All I can say, Deb, is it's a lot. You know, regardless of how you look at it. I appreciate all the effort everybody's making, but I also understand how difficult it is to try and put things together, not really knowing some of the key things that have to be known. So again, we're all looking forward to kind of coming to that point where we have to submit a plan, and I think the community as well as teachers and staff are going to be waiting so they can make their plans. And again, I really appreciate all the time and effort put into this process. Being on one committee and knowing that what we're going to be talking about will be important for everybody. Also, I'm sure every committee has that charge. So I'm anticipating, like everybody else is, what the final outcome is going to be, so we can start planning in a more productive way.
I agree. Thank you all in the administration for all the work you're putting into this. And I know we're making plans, and there's a very good chance that whatever plan we make may have a change come into it at some point during the school year. And I think just flexibility is, everybody just has to be prepared to be flexible with what happens. You know, we can try to plan as much as we can, but since things are so uncertain, we certainly want our kids to feel comfortable and not that things are uncertain. But being able to go with the flow is a very valuable skill. And so I'm sort of mentally, girding myself up to, read your plan and see whatever's happening and mentally be in one page and, suddenly find the rug whisked out from underneath. So it is a lot of work for an uncertain situation. So in a very short amount of time. So we are having an extra meeting next Monday, as you said, to go over this. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these plans develop, certainly.
We had another question, Barbara, that had to do with safety and our lockdowns and keeping our children safe if we've got windows open and doors open. I want to assure the community that our security guards are staying on with us. They will be doing what they usually did, but probably more on the perimeter, okay? Because we went with retired police officers, they are very astute and very aware if there's something going on in the community and our students should not be outside. So, we will take their lead on that. We do have construction. It's really very important that our staff and our construction staff know that they can't be on our property and going the wrong direction up Ed Holt's Lane. They can't park up by the doorways. we're getting everybody used to that mode this summer because before we know it, the students will be here and Carline will be horrendous. It absolutely will be if we're asking parents to help us out by driving their students. But Eric will be working with his ERT team to look at our emergency procedures because remember, a fire drill cannot have massive people out on the fields like we used to. So what they're recommending is you do your fire drill, but maybe at a time of the day you have very few students in the building. They're recommending a video like you watch on the airplane for your lockdown, showing the students where they would go during lockdown, but not practicing it because when you see the square that 24 students get into for a lockdown, we're not going to ask them to practice that. The bus drill. We've asked many times so far to put stickers on our buses and the fire hazards. We've been told about the hand sanitizers. Please don't leave them in your car, people, because they're flammable. They can burn right through the door compartment that you put your stuff in. We've seen a couple of pictures of that. So we can't have hand sanitizers on our buses. Our matrons can't carry it. Our bus drivers can't carry it. So we're going to have to ask our parents to cooperate on that front too and have sanitizers on the bus stop before the kid gets on the bus. Wash your hands before you get on the bus. It's a tremendous amount, but I want our parents to know that our security guards are coming back and they just will be given the outside to do. Classroom doors have to stay open. We used to keep them locked. They'll stay locked so that door can be locked if they need to in emergency, but they'll be staying open to get that cross ventilation in the room.
That plan that gets renewed every year, does it not?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So Barbara, will be addendums to that plan to address COVID concerns.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Julie. Are there any other community questions?
No, I don't have any other questions at this time.
Okay. I mean, certainly if parents have any questions, they can email the school and get in contact. They do not have, nobody has to wait for a public meeting. If you're concerned about something, please be in touch and you'll be gotten back to with whatever sort of answer is available at that time. So with any questions or concerns that you have.
Barbara, they can email me at any time and I will send the question to the superintendent and the Board of Education.
Great. Thank you, Julie. Are there any other questions from board members at this time about any of this, of the COVID planning? Okay. Then moving on to old business, we looked at the Board of Ed meeting calendar last month, or last meeting, to check out the dates and make sure that they work for everybody. Did everyone have a chance to have a look at that?
Yes.
And do these dates work for everyone?
So far, especially if they're being done virtually.
Well, we do need to get back to meetings in person eventually, and I know there was some question about that since we're, meeting remote, but our kids will be coming back. Unfortunately, our building is really not in the position to have all of us and the community in for a meeting right now anyway, regardless of this with the work that's going on inside of there. And I forgot to ask Jim that while he was here, when he thought that we might be able to be in there, but when we can be back in there, we will certainly, let everybody know.
Or don't forget, you still have the governor's orders that board meetings are to be remote, so you can do partial, but still does not recommend full board and full community till like August 6th, I believe it is.
Right. But would our building be in, would we be in a position to actually have one at that time anyway, considering the work that's going on inside?
As I said, I recommended you do the SYA. It's nice and open. The summer program will be over the week of August, so there will be children that, you know, will be there during the daytime, so you could do a nighttime meeting safely in that space.
Okay, so we will bear that in mind. So this does not actually have a resolution here for approving it, but if this works with everyone, I guess we'll go ahead and, actually it doesn't need the resolution because it's not the actual school calendar.
No, it's your calendar.
It's all posted on the website under the Board of Education calendar, and that will be our schedule.
Right, okay, great. So public commentary number 2, we've basically taken care of with a couple of questions that you had, Julie. Has anyone else been in touch with anything in the last few minutes here?
No, I've had nothing since we spoke, no.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so you will keep us posted with how your meetings are going this week, and we will reconvene a week from tonight, right?
Yep.
So in that case, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks very much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Stay good night.
Thanks for getting everybody on, John.
Yeah, sorry about the technical glitches.
That's all right. We got to figure it
Good
out.
night, everyone.
Good night.
Dawn, Christine Sampson might just like the recording of it when you have
Yeah,
it.
I'll post that right away.